How does the world see you? As a specialist financial advisor, I get invitations to a lot of events and I go to a lot of conferences. At a recent conference of 1,000 plus financial advisors, I looked around the room and I was amazed at the level of experience and knowledge and depth in one room. And as I gazed at the mass of dark suits of tall, apparently straight white men, some balding, and many of them in private conversations still yearning for the glory days of when they played private school rugby. As I looked around this mass, I asked myself 5 questions. Where were all the women? Where were our First Nations people? Where were the people of colour? Where was the religious headdress of the devout Sikh, the hijab of the devout Muslim? And was there anyone here that looked anything like someone I had in my close circle of friends or business associates? It all looked very male and very white, if you know what I mean. And speaking frankly, it did not seem to reflect the vibrance and the colour and the diversity that I see in my communities around me every single day. So how does our nation's cultural history affect our expectation today? The Australian community has always been a diverse community. We're a melting pot of migrant cultures, of ethnic backgrounds, sexualities, genders, ideas, of so many people all just looking and hoping for a better future. We are, as a society, already diverse. So if you're in the people business, and let's be honest, who isn't today? Rainbow is the new black in business. It's simply not good enough to be just good enough. And like most things that are good for society, they're also good for business. Historically, there was only anecdotal evidence to suggest that diversity would be good for business. But today, it's hard to ignore the study after study that proves that diversity and inclusion is great for business. In the US, for every 10% increase of diversity within a management team, there is a 0.8% increase in EBIT. In the UK, for every same 10% increase, there is a 3.5% increase in EBIT. Clearly, what's good for society is also profitable for business. There are 3 core drivers to help embed diversity and inclusion within your enterprise. The first one is this: leaders need to choose to learn what they need to do that moves the needle the most when it comes to creating diversity in their organisation. Now, this would sound simple, but whilst most leaders have the most power to create the change in their organisations, they often have the least amount of awareness of what's needed. And often this is because they've never had to choose to think about this before. Driver number 2. Diversity alone is not enough to get us where we need to go. You actually need the activating ingredient of inclusion development. And what we found is most diversity and inclusion programs fall over because of 2 simple things. Number 1, the belief that all we have to do is fill our quota and then the magic will automatically occur. It doesn't. And driver number 3, motivation at work actually requires more than just a paycheck. The latest statistics of Australian workers, at least according to Gallup, says this about our disengaged workforce. 70% of Australian workers feel disengaged from their job. And of that, 15% are actively disengaged. And it's not much better for our leadership teams. Only 1 in 5 feels fully engaged with what they're doing. This is the financial impact of the environment that we permit to exist in our businesses. Let's be frank, business does not exist in a vacuum. If we want our people to bring their full selves to work, we have to create an environment that allows and respects and values that. So they bring their insights, their skills, their courage, their patience, and their discretionary time. As business leaders, we have to deal with many things, and often they are legacy issues that we have merely inherited from somewhere else. Sometimes there are business issues that we inherit. Usually there are community issues that bleed over somehow into our commercial realities. And then even our government's efforts create problems and damage our diverse communities in so many, many ways, creating an expectation of isolation and exclusion that at the end of the day, business leaders like us are left to deal with. In our interconnected world of business, and let's face it, it's the only world that we have, the actions of people and of communities and of businesses interact, and it's the unavoidable reality of doing business with social creatures. As business leaders, if we cannot acknowledge our history, both distant and near, we will never understand what we're really fighting with and what we're fighting for. The White Australia policy was only dismantled in 1973, and it made mixed race marriages illegal. The cruel taunt that you would hear was, 2 Wongs would never make a white. An equally distasteful time before the result of the 2017 Australian Government Voluntary Postal Survey on same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage in Australia was illegal. In fact, past Prime Minister, in launching his No campaign to the idea of same-sex marriage legality, said this, and I quote, "Vote no because voting no will help stop political correctness in its tracks." And the former Prime Minister seemed to miss the humanity of the real question that was at play. Thankfully, in December of the same year, same-sex marriage became legal in Australia, and we move on. But as business leaders, those very same people, those LGBTIQ people, still came to work. Thankfully today, the majority of Australians do believe that everyone deserves a fair go. And marriage equality for the same-sex community became law in December 2017. And in 2017, during that voluntary postal survey, many people, many workers who identified as either lesbian or gay, bisexual, transgender, or even intersex, collectively known by the acronym LGBTI, many of those workers still came to work. They still came to work and were the public face of our brand. They still interacted with our customers and cared for them. They still came to work even during a eviscerating and bullying public discussion about the very validity of their lives. They still came to work regardless. And what I saw was the strength of so many in our diverse communities. Their courage, their insight, their patience actually makes them high-value employees and excellent customer-facing advocates. What affects our communities affects our businesses as well, because our businesses are run by our people who are drawn from the community. It's no doubt, and it's no argument, a toxic environment hurts us all. Good people cannot remain silent. As today's modern business leaders, we must take sides and speak up, because silence only rewards the bully and empowers the abuser. Today, as Australia experiences what many would say is a drought of political leadership, we need business leaders who are pragmatic, who are rational, and who are far-sighted. We need to make sure that our actions match our intent. And we need to make sure that our people and our businesses are such that people of diverse communities can easily traverse through our organisations, from boards to leadership teams to supply chains, so that they can bring their full selves to work with their insight, with their dedication, with their empathy, and with their full selves. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Not yet, but soon. Feeling comfortable in business is probably the first indicator that something is not right and needs your attention. And while striving to create diversity and inclusion within our teams does require constant vigilance, so does managing cost overruns, compliance, monitoring competitors, HR issues. It's just what business leaders must do. The German theologian Martin Niemöller was born in 1892, and he soon became a public foe of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. Originally, he was a supporter of the Nazi regime, but over time he saw that the intent and the impact was wrong, and he was compelled to stand up. For his opposition to the Nazi state, he spent his last 7 years interned in a concentration camp. And whilst he passed away in 1984, he is perhaps best known for his poem entitled, "They Came for the Socialists and I Did Not Speak Up." And this is the poem. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak up because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak up because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was nobody left to speak for me. Good people cannot stay silent and must speak up. As business leaders, we have to be known for what we support and stand for, and what we do not support and what we stand against. You see, Niemöller believed that many Germans had become complicit through their silence in the Nazi imprisonment, persecution, and murder of millions of people. He actually thought this was especially true of the Protestant churches of the day, who he believed should have been the voice of the people and not the prevailing government. So here's the challenge. What's the one big question I'm asking you to take away with you today and take with you every day? It's this. As a business leader, what is the one thing you can do that will move the needle the most to help your organisation establish a diverse and an inclusive environment? So why is rainbow the new black in business? We can all agree that business competition usually starts with either a service or a product innovation. At first, it becomes the first mover advantage. But then it becomes the new standard, and then it becomes the new expectation for everyone. In our race for innovation, in our war for talent, we often forget the activate ingredient that makes all things possible is including all people possible. The colour black has historically been the respected standard. It's been a culturally acceptable way to fit in. It's been a statement of elegant simplicity, a fashion choice of many people, but it's also a happy message from my accountant that if my business is in the black, I'm making a profit and making money. Today, it's simply not good enough to be just good enough. We must stand up for our people and have an opinion and be known for what we stand for, and have an opinion and be known for what we stand against. Rainbow today is the new black in business. So why do we bother? A modern successful business can only continue to exist within the confines of a healthy, supportive community. In fact, we all want to be part of the community, not just a community. We can only further the cause of right and good by standing up and being seen and heard. Today, we need business leaders who are able and capable to lead their businesses proactively so that diversity of thought, diversity of expression, diversity of insights, and the belief that everyone deserves a fair go becomes the new standard in your business, so that it becomes the new standard in all business. Because today, truly, rainbow is the new black in business.